Alright, what is going on, people of the internet? Welcome back to another episode of Ark Survival Evolved and Mythbusters, and in this episode we're going to be taking a look at fall damage. Now, fall damage is something very important to learn about in Ark, because Ark is such a three-dimensional game. There is basically no flat surfaces in all of Ark, and it's incredibly hard to build a building because of that. But fall damage is also very important to learn about, simply because if you're on a mount and you are by the volcano, say you're on an ankylo and you're going for metal, and suddenly you no-clip through a rock and you get tossed off the side of the mountain, you're going to be taking a ton of damage, and you want to know whether or not you can survive that fall. Now, there's of course an easy way to avoid fall damage, which is by pressing E and jumping off your mount right before you hit the ground, and neither of you will take fall damage from that because it resets the fall clock. But, of course, if this isn't always a possibility, maybe your server has it turned off, maybe they're going to patch it in the future, you're going to want to learn about how fall damage works. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take the first one, which is our first myth of 3, that is, a human cannot be one-shot by fall damage. So we've got my friend Zifnix here, who is in the call with me. You can hear our voices in the background as we were talking. And I didn't expect him to make these noises as he was falling, so it was pretty funny to me. You can see here he was at full damage, and he proceeded to get one shot by the fall, and he thought he had God mode on, but he didn't, so it was a bit of a surprise. That was a bit of an accidental myth that we managed to bust there. So the first myth is busted. The other two myths are that you cannot be one shot while you're on a mount by fall damage, and the third myth is that fall damage works as a percentage and not as a number. So to do this testing, we're going to have 3 Gallimimuses, which is the newest mount added into the game. And actually, if you remember watching from my max speed videos, you can see that I jumped off a volcano and I managed to not get one shot by that. So we're taking the first level 1 Gallimimus, and it survives the fall. Now this Gallimimus has 150 health, and I only lost 96 of that, which is about 70%. It's about 60 to 70%, I believe, somewhere in there. So right off the bat, I took 70% fall damage. Now, we can prove that this is a confirmed myth and not busted, that when you take a different leveled dinosaur off of the Quetzal platform up here, of course it's using the same height, and you will see that if we take another Gallimimus off the Quetzal platform saddle, that it will take 70% damage, or it will take 96 damage. Now, if it takes 96, we have proven that fall damage is a numerical value, and that you can survive it from this height by only taking 96 damage. However, if the Gallimimus takes 70% damage, you can verify that it's in fact a percentage. So you can see here, we're falling down, and as soon as we hit the ground, about 70% damage dealt once again. But I have survived the fall. Now, we're going to test later or not you can be one-shotted by falling, because, you know, maybe this height is simply just the 70% value. And the Gallimimus, actually, I looked into it, gets 0 reduction from falling, whereas the Bizabuffo, we're going to be testing later, does get a reduced fall damage. So the third one, we take off the Quetzal once more, the 120, perfect tame to 180, and it takes 70% damage. And it had 1500 health stock, and it lost about 1000 of that. So it's pretty easy, or it had 1000 health and lost 700. So it's about 70% once again. So it's pretty easy there to verify that yes, in fact, fall damage is a percentage value, so that myth is confirmed. And now we're going to be proving that you cannot be one-shot by fall damage. So we're going to be going to the top of the map, and the Gallimimus does not actually take fall damage from going off, or it does not take a reduced amount of fall damage, whereas the Bizabuffo, because people were jumping on it so often and it jumps so high, people requested that you can take a reduced amount of fall damage by using that mount, so you can't just be instantly killed off by a bunch of different falls or one really big fall. Should it be the case that you can be one-shotted by falling? So you can see here, we're at the top of the Visqueen. I want to go just a little bit below it, simply because, you know, if you're at that top of that Visqueen, you could have the possibility of glitching through it and dying, so I'm going to be testing it just below the top of the world borders, and we're going to be taking the Gallimimus off the back of this Quetzal. And you can see here, it is a long fall. And I mean a long fall. This is the highest to the lowest, almost to lowest. We're jumping onto a bit of a plateau, a bit higher up than the surrounding ground, but you can pretty much confirm that that is going to be your stock falling height for the max height you can jump from. And once again, we take the exact same amount of damage, so you can confirm that once you hit terminal velocity, you will not be taking any more fall damage than you already have. So we have proven that you cannot be one-shot by fall damage. So that myth is also confirmed. Now we're going to be doing a bit more testing in the background here, but we have confirmed the 2 myths and busted the 3rd, that a player cannot be one-shot by fall damage. So if you're going and you fall off a volcano and you're at full health, no need to worry because you only take about 70% damage. And the Gallimimus, I wasn't sure if it got a reduced fall damage because it is a jumping mount in reality. That mount is solely based on movement speed. You don't know whether or not the Ark devs wanted to incorporate a mechanic that made it so you could be a little bit less penalized for falling. So the Raptor here obviously would not have the exact same kind of benefits, and you can see 70% damage received once again. Now, for the last part, we're going to be summoning in a Beelzebuffo just to really verify that it works as a percentage to the mount itself. And so we're going to be summoning in the Toad, and we're going to be jumping that off the Quetzal. Something important to keep in mind is that fall damage is actually based off of server difficulty. So we're running on 1.0 right now, which is what most official servers, all official servers run, and most unofficial run. There are some servers that make it 3.0, I believe, to make it so there are higher level dinos, and there are some that only run 0.2 to make it so there's only 0 to 30. Now, if you're running on a lower difficulty server, you're of course going to take less fall damage, and this is valid test for the 1.0 difficulty server. So while you're on 3.0, I'm sure you could take more fall damage, or 0.2 you'd probably take less, but as of official Ark settings, you cannot take you cannot get one shot by falling while you're on a mount. So if you're on the side of the mountain, no need to worry, you will survive. But anyway, thank you for watching. This took a lot of time to set up, so please go in the comments and tell me how I did. If you've done any testing of your own that I may have missed out on that proves or misproves one of the theories that we looked at here, feel free to write about it in the comments, and if you got suggestions for future Mythbusters videos, you can leave them in the comments. We hope to look into doing more theoretical things that can help people play an Ark, and we hope that this video has helped you in understanding how to avoid the treacherous fall damage. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode of Whatever We Make. Peace.
Yeah, pretty much. Alright.
Bye-bye. Now the Dodos. Let's talk about their battle strengths. Well, on their own, not many, but in a large group, they could probably surround their enemy and work their ways around getting a ton of damage out by all of them attacking at once. So I feel like if the Dodos can surround the Rex, they can really crank out the damage, and they might put up a pretty good fight against nearly any foe. Well, nothing left holding us back, so let's go. It was a well-timed jump, I will say that. So you're getting pretty accurate results here on just how far this thing flies.